outside? Should I run and hide? How do I take my company worldwide? Do you love the law? Did you watch Hee-Haw? What's the weirdest thing that you ever saw? What's it like in court? Favorite sport? Can you help with my book report? Is my hair too long? Am I right or wrong? And do you mind if I sing along to anything? Ask Alan anything in the world.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of Ask Alan, the podcast. I'm Alan Crone, the CEO of the Crone Law Firm. And today we're going to have a very interesting show. My good friend, Dr. Rob Wegner, is with us. And he is a surgeon here in town. He's going to talk about his practice, but he's also going to talk about how he got interested in medicine and all kinds of things. So, Doctor, hello, and welcome to the program.
Hi, Alan. Thanks for having me on.
Well, thank you for doing it. It's awful nice of you. Let's just dive right in. And, as I frequently say, I like to talk about people's origin stories because a lot of folks don't think that, a successful surgeon like you, you came from somewhere. And a lot of people who watch this are young people thinking about their careers. So where'd you come from and how did you decide to go into medicine?
So, not the traditional route by any means. I'm probably one of those outliers that, when someone says, oh, anybody can go into medicine if they have the drive or the will to do it, I was that person because I didn't have the traditional college, med school, residency job route. When I was growing up, my dad was a dentist out in the country outside of Chicago in a small town. And, I was always interested I always thought being a doctor was cool. He was a dentist in Vietnam. So he would always have I remember vividly sitting around the kitchen table and he always had MASH on. So he'd watch the local news and then MASH. And so I was watching MASH when I was a little kid all the time. And the surgeons on there, I was always fascinated by their characters and their stories. I just liked the show. And that kind of sparked my interest in being a surgeon. Or going into medicine, and he was a dentist and he knew a lot of doctors in town. So I was always kind of around it. And then I went to college and played tennis for a couple years, kind of satellite semi-pro tennis, and thought that might be where I want to go. And then I decided really to go the academic route. So I ended up coming out of college, but in college as say an 18 to 22-year-old, I started really getting involved in working out and bodybuilding and fitness and nutrition. So when I got out of college, I moved downtown Chicago and I opened up Gold's Gym with another guy that was already there. We did a big expansion. And so I started doing personal training and working with, people that wanted to change their bodies through, working out and nutrition and lifestyle changes. And I was really big into working out at the time. And I still am, but that was really a big part of my life at that time. And where'd you
go to college? I hate to interrupt you. Where'd you go?
No, I went through a few colleges. I had a storied career of, the fraternities and the partying and all the fun stuff in college. And finally ended up graduating from Lincoln University in Jeff City, Missouri. And I lived at Lake of the Ozarks down there for a lot of years. And I commuted back to Jeff City, Missouri, but I ended up graduating from there. And I have a degree in biochemistry. So my plan was to go into medical school after, graduating college, but I ended up moving back to Chicago. And I thought, well, if I live downtown for a year and then apply, that was kind of my plan. But I got sidetracked in this gym business. So I had an opportunity to go into the business as an owner. So I took advantage of that. And I did that for a few years and worked with a whole bunch of different body types, you could say. One of our clients was the Illinois Center for Human Reproduction. And a lot of the women that they were working with and men that couldn't get a pregnancy conceived or carried to term were morbidly obese. And part of their fertility program was losing weight. So they would come to the gym, we'd write them a program, we'd train them, we'd do their nutrition, lifestyle changes. So I worked with morbidly obese people in the gym setting. So I was used to working with them and listening to their stories and kind of helping them, cope with the stresses of being morbidly obese, which in this society is not easy. It's very difficult. And then they're trying to get pregnant at the same time and have a family. So there's a lot of stress involved. So I worked with these types of clients routinely. And so in the gym business, I met a trader at the Board of Trade, and he was one of my personal clients. And so I got interested in trading, and I had an opportunity to go down to the Chicago Board of Trade and get a seat and start trading. So I did that for a few years, from like 97 to 2000. So in the early 90s, mid 90s, I was at Gold's Gym, owner, trainer. Then I went down and did trading at the Board of Trade. That went well. And then in 2000, at the Board of Trade, the trading changed, and it was really hard to do well. Computers kind of took over all that pit trading, which is what I was, one of those guys jumping up and down, pit trading. And so I'm like, oof, I don't know if this is going to be around much longer. I didn't want to go upstairs to an office and sit at a computer all day. So I thought, well, maybe this is a good time to finally go to medical school, because I always wanted. So it's always in the back of my mind, I'm going to do this. It's just I got sidetracked a couple of times. So when I was 30, instead of going to the standard, American school like University of Illinois, University of Wisconsin, or Indiana, wherever, Northwestern, I went down to the Caribbean. So I took that route. So I went to St. Martin. I lived on St. Martin in the Caribbean for 2 years. I did all the book work, all the biochemistry, gross anatomy, physiology, all the book work. Then after the 2 years on the island, you take all the standardized testing everybody else takes, and you can come back to the United States and do your clinicals. So from 2000 to 2004, I did medical school, graduated medical school, a degree from the Caribbean school. And then with the help of God and an amazing amount of determination, it's very difficult to match into a big school general surgery residency coming from a Caribbean school. I mean, it's just the way it is. The students that went to U of I, University of Iowa, Illinois, Northwestern, they get the pick of those good slots. I was fortunate enough to do well on my testing and do well in medical school, and I got a couple good recommendations. So I was from Chicago, so I knew some people. And I was able to get a general surgery slot at University of Illinois, Chicago, downtown. So for 5 years, I did all my general surgery training at U of I at the Chicago campus, which was not easy. And I was a little bit older at the time, a lot of older than my classmates, because I had gone back to school at 30 and they were all in their 20s. But I did that. And then when I got out of general surgery, it just stuck with me, what's a really interesting procedure, what was I good at? And I was really good at laparoscopic surgery. It just came naturally to me. And so when I started working with bariatric patients and doing gastric bypass during my residency, and then with my history of working with the morbidly obese patients in the gym and knowing about them as people, it all kind of clicked for me. So now I was able to be a surgeon, help this patient population that I've helped before, but now in a surgical way, a really meaningful way. And so I did all my training at bariatrics at the University of Iowa. It was a 1 year pure bariatric program where all I did was gastric bypass for a whole year. And I, took all the boards, passed all my exams, first time around. So I was really fortunate to do all that. But it was difficult to do it all at the same time. But I ended up finishing everything. And so when I was done training from 2000 to 2010, it took 10 years to finish that whole process from age 30 to 40. I decided, well, it's time to get a job. And so I went out and started looking at different bariatric jobs, talked to a recruiter. Recruiter's like, I got jobs here, I got jobs there. I looked in Texas, I looked at Florida, I looked at California, places I'd want to live. And I'll never forget it. I was sitting in a Target in Chicago parking lot, waiting for somebody to come out, getting groceries or whatever we need at Target. The phone rings, and it's a recruiter from Memphis at St. Francis. Her name is Jeannie Harris. I'll never forget her and her family. And she's like, hey, Dr. Wegner, this is Jeannie Harris from St. Francis down in Memphis. And we have an opening for a bariatric surgeon down here. Would you be interested in coming down? I'm like, Memphis? I've never been to Memphis, never even crossed my mind that I would live or even come to Memphis to work, much less for anything else. She's like, well, we'd really like to talk to you. It's a great program. It's an underserved area. We have a huge amount of, no pun intended, a large amount of patients that need surgery that we can't accommodate with this. We only have, one surgeon here, and we'd love you to come down and take a look at it. So I went down a couple times and talked to St. Francis in the hospital, met everybody, and that was in 2010. And they made me a fantastic offer, mainly because I didn't have to build a patient program. There was a few hundred patients that were ready for surgery. They just nobody to do it. So I came down and started operating right away, like within getting my license and a couple, 3 months, I was already in the operating room doing cases. So just as an aside, to let you know how odd or difficult it really was for me, I took the job, bought a house, and then I get a letter from the Tennessee State Medical Board. We've never heard of your medical school, and we're not going to give you a Tennessee license. So this, cold sweat comes over me. I'm like, I've just sunk all my eggs into this basket in Memphis. Oh my God, I'm not going to get a license. I can't believe it. So the hospital's like, listen, you can go before the board, we'll help you. And the board of Tennessee said, you can come before the board and appeal it, but you have to come in person. So it was like, and they only meet every quarter. So they had just met. So I had to wait like 4 months before I could go before the board. But I went before the board, and I had a couple spokespeople from Iowa and Chicago come with me to vouch for my character. And they thought, this guy's legit. He's from a University of Iowa, great program, University of Illinois, great program. He went to medical school Caribbean, he took an alternate route, and they understood. And I explained it, what's going on. I passed all the tests and I gave them all my scores, and they were like, yeah, you're in. So that was kind of a little speed bump in my getting to Memphis. But I finally got here, started operating. And so from 2010 until this morning, I've been doing 4 or 5 cases a day, gastric bypass, gastric sleeve. I've done 5,000 cases. I think we totaled them up the other day, about 5,000 cases since I started working here, which for one individual surgeon is just an enormous amount of volume. We've been reaccredited every 3 years by the American Society for Bariatrics. We've got a great track record with patient satisfaction and follow-up and low complication rate and all the things that a good program would want. But I've been with St. Francis this is going into the 12th year for 11 solid years, which is rare. I mean, you look at a surgeon's resume or CV, and very rarely there's at least 2 or 3 stops on there. So, I've been fortunate enough to come down here and dig in at St. Francis and really make a name for what I do and for myself and for the patients, and really stay and follow through. I haven't gone and looked at other places for other opportunity. When I dug in here, I knew this is where I wanted to be, because I knew I could help a lot of people. And so it wasn't a traditional route for me. I went back to school when I was 30, finished when I was 40. And, you can do the math. I've been working for this going into my 12th year. So, I've got a few good years left, but I really love what I do. And I'm fortunate to like what I do and love what I do, to really help patients and help people change their lives. And that's what I do. I change lives.
Well, it sounds like you have been able to marry a passion of yours with your profession.
I have.
The experience. Talk a little bit. How did the experience at Gold's Gym and the training, how did that translate into helping you deal with patients in a surgical context, medical context?
So, when the clients, or I would call them patients or clients at the gym, when they would come into the program, we would sit down, talk about like their lifestyle, how morbid obesity doesn't happen in a month or a year. It takes 5 to 10 years to get 100 to 200 pounds overweight. Now, some people have been overweight all their life. They've always been on the higher side of that growth and weight, chart from birth even. And so they're genetically predisposed to be on the larger side. So, and some people were like thin or normal BMI, I hate to use the word thin, normal BMI in college or high school, and women especially, they have their first child, second child, they never lose their weight from their pregnancy, and it just kind of gets more and more over the years. You become more sedentary, your diet isn't maybe as tight, you just get a little lax on your lifestyle, and metabolism slows down, and year after year, all of a sudden you're gaining 5 to 8 pounds a year over the last 5 to 10 years. So that translates to 100 pounds. So those patients would come in, I'd sit down, look at their lifestyle, look at their diet menu plan. Are they taking any vitamins? What medication are they on? What are their comorbidities? Type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, sleep apnea, acid reflux, joint pain, high cholesterol, migraines, asthma. I mean, the list just goes on and on. So then you got to start trying to plan like a workout, and you can't just take them into the gym and like do the workout you're going to do. And these patients are physically debilitated. They've never worked out a day in their life. They're trying to lose 50, 80 pounds. And so it was not impossible, but you would help them lose some weight. They would lose 20, 30, 40 pounds, over 6, 8 months. But I knew after doing that, I was never really satisfied with the result of just working out. And so I always knew there was something more. And when I learned about bariatric surgery, the light bulb went off that, yeah, you can work out and change your lifestyle and change your diet, but there's something else going on. There's a metabolic syndrome or a metabolic changes that, the recidivism rate of regaining 100 pounds, if you lose it over the next 5 years, is close to 100%. The chances of you keeping off 100 pounds in 5 years is like between 1 and 5% if you lose it. So why is that? What is it about the metabolism or the physiology of the body that makes the body want to regain that 100 pounds, even when they're working out and change their lifestyle and change their nutrition program? So because your body has a set point, a fat set point where it wants to be, and it wants to go back there. So to maintain, a 50 or 100 pound weight loss for the rest of your life is extremely difficult. And that's not knocking the patient for not doing it. I'm just telling you, statistically, it's not going to happen. And so when I learned about bariatric surgery, and then looking back on the gym experience, we would make progress with them and we would help them as much as we could. But when I really learned about the power of changing the metabolism physiology through surgery, that's when you could really see the changes stick for a lifetime. And they make the lifestyle changes and food choices. But now when they lose 100 pounds, it's going to stay off because I've changed their physiology of their body. And that's really the key to what surgery does. It's more than just, if you could just work out and eat right, there'd be very few obese people in this country because that's not that hard. And once you see results, people are like charged up. They're like, oh my God, I lost 15 pounds and I feel great. And my suit fits different and my ankles aren't swollen and my knees don't hurt. That's a real motivating factor. So if it was that easy, morbid obesity would not be as big a problem as it is. So there's something more to it. And the more research that's done, it's clearly a metabolic problem, a physiologic problem that surgery can solve.
How does the surgery, because I don't really know that much about bariatric surgery at all. I had a fraternity brother named George Cowan, Dr. George Cowan, who was at UT for years and was part of their weight loss study program there. He was an older than me, but I don't know. I don't think he's still practicing, but he used to talk about that. He used to say that it's all metabolism, and talk about how the surgery interacts with metabolism, because it would seem that that's genetic, that's programmed in.
Yes.
That seems like a software issue, not a hardware. And surgery seems to me like you're dealing with hardware. How does all that work?
Yeah. So Dr. Cowan was in Memphis for many years. And I'm not sure if he retired or moved, but and I still see one or two of his patients a year, come through the ER or they'll call me for something that he did a surgery on. He did gastric bypass, I think, decades ago here in Memphis. So once in a while, I'll hear his name, and I've heard his name before. But so the hardware influences the software. So when I do a gastric bypass, which is altering the configuration of the small intestine and the stomach. I make the stomach small, about the size of a tennis ball, and I reconfigure the small intestine and attach it to the tennis ball. So most of the stomach, or the gastric part of your anatomy, is bypassed, hence the name gastric bypass. You have a smaller stomach, and you've reorganized the location of the small bowel so that now food is traveling into different parts of the intestine at different times. That hardware change directly influences the software, which is the hormonal response to you eating. Your brain and your intestine are directly connected with hormonal and neuron response. So your hunger drive and your satiety, which is the feeling of fullness, the stretch receptors in your stomach, and the way your body responds to sugar with insulin response and stabilizing your blood sugar, and how your body metabolizes calories, metabolizes fat and carbohydrates, is directly altered by me changing the anatomy. So the hardware that I change, the hard part of it, rerouting and making those changes, directly influences the brain and GI tract communication. Your metabolism increases. Your satiety when you eat increases. So you're full quicker. Your hunger drive decreases. So in between meals, the hormones that make you hungry aren't being released as much. So you don't have that, oh my God, I'm just always hungry when I'm not eating. And some patients, they have to not remind themselves to eat, but they're just not that hungry, which is a good thing. They're used to being like starving all the time. So now they're not as hungry. When they do eat, they're more satisfied, and your metabolism is now increased. So all these things lead to significant weight loss. And then all the comorbidities, type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, sleep apnea, acid reflux, joint pain, high cholesterol, asthma, migraines, fatty liver, risk of cancer, PCOS for women, infertility, like the patients I would work with. There's no body system, whether it's your skin, your bones, your GI tract, any organ that's positively affected by obesity. Every single organ system is negatively affected. So patients will say like, well, how much weight should I lose? Or what if I lose too much weight? I mean, there's no such thing. You need to lose as much weight as you can, because the more excess weight that you carry on your frame, the more damage you're doing to your body. If you can lose 10 pounds, that's great. If you need to lose 100 and you lose 50 or 80 or 90, it's all good. You just need to lose weight as much as you can. Surgical patients will lose around 70% of their excess weight in that first year to say 16 months. Diets, 5-10%. Phentermine, 5% a year. It's not even close. So if you're 100 pounds overweight, if you look at patients taking phentermine or working out or this or that, if they keep off 5 to 10 pounds over a year, that's good. That to me is a dismal failure. I want to see patients lose 100 to 200 pounds in a year to a year and a half and keep it off. And that's what my goals are. But my patients don't need to lose 10, 20 pounds. The people I work with are 100 pounds overweight on average. Some are, 80, 60, but I've gone, I just did a patient a couple of weeks ago that was 660 pounds. That patient will lose probably 250 to 300 pounds in the next 3 years. And I've done several patients in that range. They come in a wheelchair, in a motorized scooter. they haven't been, out of the house, some of them in months or even years. I had one patient a while back, hadn't been out of the bed in 6 months. And somehow, they get him into the office. We've got, office that can accommodate these patients. We get them in there, we see them. And, if I can do their surgery, I'm going to do it. It's going to change their life. So it's something that I believe in wholeheartedly, because I've been doing it so long, and I believed in it when I learned about it. And so after doing 5,000 cases and seeing these patients change their life, there's nothing that comes close to the power of surgical weight loss compared to medication or lifestyle changes.
Who are the candidates for this this surgery? Where do your patients come from?
So if anybody's out there listening, or patients or whoever's listening to this program, if you take your phone, your Android or your iPhone, and type in BMI calculator, everybody has one, BMI calculator. BMI stands for body mass index. If your body mass index is 35 or greater, you are a candidate for weight loss surgery. Okay. If your BMI, and I'll have patients ask me, oh, my BMI is 34 and I have diabetes and high blood pressure. And I'm like, well, they're like, what should I do? I'm like, you need to go eat something. You need to gain 15 pounds so we can get you up to that, weight loss surgery category. Because the chances of them getting down to BMI 30 are not good. They have a better chance. That's kind of a joking thing I say, but the BMI 35 is the cutoff as the accepted number by the Bariatric Society. So BMI 35 or greater, you qualify for surgery. Now, the interesting thing is, and I won't quiz you on the spot, but just, take a guess. How many people in this country do you think have a BMI over 35? Let's say there's 300 million people. What percentage would you think?
Probably a lot higher than I think, because that's it's pretty
easy. Third.
When you say morbidly obese to me,
what
I
does
think
that mean to you?
600-pound. I think of that 600-pound guy or gal.
Yeah.
But it doesn't take a lot to be 100 pounds overweight.
No, it doesn't. And it's a third of the country. 100 million people right now in this country qualify for weight loss surgery. And the astonishing fact is, you'll be shocked when I tell you how many people have had it. 1 million. 99 million people in this country qualify for weight loss surgery and haven't had it. And so, Dr. Wegner, why are you so busy? Because there's 99 million people out there that I'm trying to help that only 1 million have had it. But, I'm only one person. But my point is that there is which is why I want to do programs like this. There's still a stigma that surgery is an easy way out, or a shortcut, or dangerous. It's not. It's not the easy way out. It's the right way out. It's the solution that you need. It's the solution that will really help you more than anything else you've done in your life. Most patients, when they come see me in the office, most of them will say, I've been thinking about this for 5 years, 10 years. And I'll say, well, what finally brought you in after 5 years? Like, well, you operated on my coworker or my family member. Like after Thanksgiving, in January, after Thanksgiving and Christmas, I'll have half of my clinic will be friends or family of people they saw over the holidays that I operated on. So like I saw my sister-in-law at the Thanksgiving. I didn't even recognize him. And I said, what happened to you? She said, oh, I had a gastric bypass by Dr. Wegner about a year ago. And they're like, oh my God, you look fantastic. And then sure enough, they can't wait to get in there. And sometimes that's what it takes, is to know somebody. So really a lot of my clinic now are friends and family members or coworkers of patients I already operated on, which is a good thing, because they're really the biggest billboard for me and for weight loss surgery. And the power of it is them out walking around, traveling, getting on airplanes, playing with their grandkids, going to Grizzly game, going to Redbird game, things they've never done before that they can now do, and talking about it Like, oh my God, I changed my life. I feel so much better. I can't believe I waited so long to do this. And so back to your question, BMI 35, most patients have something, type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, sleep apnea, all the things, acid reflux, all the things I talk about. And then I'll get a patient that says, well, my BMI is 40, but I feel pretty good. I don't have high blood pressure. I don't have diabetes. I don't have acid reflux. I feel okay. What do you think I should do? I said, well, why don't you wait till you get diabetes and high blood pressure? Then we'll do the surgery. They're like, really? I'm like, no. No. What are you waiting to get sicker? Because the handwriting's on the wall. If your BMI is 40, next year it's going to be 42. And after that, it's going to be 44. And in 5 years, it's going to be 50. And you are going to have diabetes and high blood pressure and joint pain. If your BMI is over 35 and you qualify for surgery and you're blessed enough to have insurance that covers it, don't wait till you're sicker to get it. Do it now, because the sicker you are, the more stressed out I'm going to be doing your surgery and anesthesia and all the pre-op testing and everything like that. So I never tell people to wait. And if you qualify for surgery, I say do it while you can get it. The next question is, well, what about insurance? Do they cover it? Yes, but it's year to year. Sometimes your plan covers it, sometimes they don't. So if it covers it now, that doesn't mean it's going to cover it next year. So I always tell patients to try to do it when they can get it covered. But it is covered by all insurance, including Medicare. So the insurance companies recognize the benefit.
Well, it's the old adage, the youth is wasted on the young. And right. Why not go ahead and improve your life now while you're younger? Doesn't matter what your age is, because next year you're going to be older.
No, I'll take, it must have been, I don't know, a few months back, wheeling back to the operating room, and the patient got the patient to sleep, and we're all kind of talking in the room, and they're like, gee, this patient's older. One of the older patients, I think it was a female, probably in her late 70s. And I'm thinking, they said, isn't that, and somebody who is new in the room or came in and said, isn't that a little old to be doing a gastric bypass on a 70-something-year-old person? I said, well, if they were not gonna live another year or two, I would say maybe not if they weren't. But if you're 76, if you're gonna live to 86, wouldn't you rather be a healthy 80, 86, 84, 85 than one that can't walk around very well or take your diabetes medication, high blood pressure medication? So if you're medically able to go through the operation, if you're going to live for another 5 years, that last 5 years of your life are going to be more enjoyable than the previous 20 if you were morbidly obese. So I tell people all the time, don't let age be the limiting factor. If you can qualify and you're healthy enough to survive the operation as far as medically, I say do it. And I've done plenty of people in their 60s and 70s, and I see them 4 or 5 years, down the road, and they said they wish they wouldn't have waited that long. Best thing they ever did. Playing with their grandkids, traveling, going to the beach, going on, rides at Disneyland and stuff. They could never do that stuff before. So I say go for it.
Right.
Yeah.
And I had a question, and it just slipped my mind. Can gastric bypass surgery give me a better memory? That might be a selling point for me.
I don't know, Alan. You're pretty sharp. I don't know if you had a better memory. I don't know if that'd be legal, Alan. I want to do a podcast on you.
Reverse those comorbidities. I mean, if someone has type 2 diabetes or high blood pressure, can it reverse that?
That's the beauty of that operation is the cure rate of gastric bypass for type 2 diabetes is around 80%. I've seen as high as 90. There's no medication in the world that has a for type 2 diabetic that has a cure rate 80-90%. With metformin and all those injectables and all those oral meds, all you're doing is treating diabetes. Gastric bypass is curing diabetes. So it's not even in the realm of comparison. Remember, medication doesn't cure anything. It just treats the symptoms. Same with high blood pressure. Your blood pressure is high. You don't take the medication, it's high. You take the medication, you lower it. Stop the medication, it's high again. You have high blood pressure. All you're doing is treating the symptoms of it, trying to keep it down. Gastric bypass comes along, your blood pressure comes down, no meds. So you've cured the problem, not just treated the problem. That's why the operation is so powerful. That's why it's so beneficial to people. Their med list goes from 15 meds down to 2 or 3, some none. That's the power of that operation.
Now, at the same time, after this, the surgery, the patient still needs to do some mitigation work on their own in terms of diet and exercise, correct?
No doubt. There's no, as you as an attorney would say, there's everything has a cost. Nothing's free. If you want to go talk to your attorney, you want some free advice, you're not going to get it. This is what it's going to cost you for the advice. Same with the gastric bypass. You're not going to lose 100 pounds for free. You're going to have to make some changes. You're going to have to be accountable, and you're going to have to participate. You're not going to come in, talk to me, go through the program, which takes 6 months, 8 months to get the operation. Get your gastric bypass, recover after a week or two, and then wing through Chick-fil-A and think everything's going to be cool. That's not how it's going to work. Before the operation, before we even do the operation, you've got to go through hours of education, lifestyle changes, food choices, portion control, take your vitamins, a little bit of exercise. Nothing out of the realm of what's doable for a morbidly obese person. Even people in a wheelchair, they could be more active. You can do arm exercises and chair exercises and resistance training without even getting out of that wheelchair. And as time goes on, you start to get out of that wheelchair. And I've taken plenty of people out of their wheelchair, which is amazing when you see it. When you see their initial pictures and they're in the wheelchair, and sometimes we'll do videos, and you see them like 2 years later, walking into the office, it's unbelievable. They can't even believe it. So patients have to be accountable. Nothing's for free. You got to make some changes. But the funny thing is, I'll ask patients, I'll see them after the surgery, and they'll be like, Dr. Wegner, I don't even really miss like the chips and the burgers and the fatty foods and the ice cream and the diet or the Coke Classic or the Coke carbonated beverages and this and that. I don't even really crave it. And there's been a lot of studies that show that your taste and smell absolutely change after gastric bypass. And things that you used to crave, like I'm going to say like crappy food or bad food, you don't even want it anymore, which is a real benefit to that operation. You don't crave that empty calorie food you used to like and live on. So it's a good thing. Suddenly you start to crave, more vegetables and leaner meats and, less carbohydrates and not as much fatty foods. And so those are all, kind of side effects that are good. But, you can regain your weight. I've seen, not many, but I've had patients where they'll lose 100 pounds, 150 pounds, and a year goes by, 2 years go by, and slowly we start to look at their weight chart, and it's starting to creep up again. And so we bring them in and say, listen, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, whatever, what's going on? And don't sugarcoat it. What are you doing? Because you're doing something different than you did last year or the year before. And sure enough, they're snacking. Like in between meals, they're starting to eat a little empty calories. They're not working out as much. COVID was a big hit. People couldn't go to the gym. They could not be active. They're sitting at home a little bit more, not working, eating chips, maybe a little ice cream, empty calories, pretzels, whatever they're snacking on. So as life changes and your lifestyle changes, so can your weight, as that's has a lot to do with it. So we try to counsel those behaviors out, the bad behaviors, and we watch the patients over time, and they see us every 6 months or a year, and we kind of track them. But if they start to look like they're regaining, we try to nip it. Say, okay, what's going on? Are you snacking, not working out? What's ordered the changes? And sure enough, we can kind of tweak it and get them back on track. But that's all part of the program.
Let me ask you a question I've always wanted to ask somebody. And that is, it seems to me that, on a lot of the systems in my body that the good Lord gave me are designed to protect me, right? If I touch a hot stove with my hand, my nervous system's going to jerk my hand away so that I don't burn my hand. And my brain is going to register that and say, don't do that anymore. That's bad. And there are dozens of items like that. But the things that taste the best are the worst for me.
Why is that?
Sugar, fat. Why? That's my cream.
Why?
Why is that?
So remember, the human body is set up to sustain itself in times of starvation. So the funny thing is, when we eat all these foods that taste good, now fruit is a natural sweetened food from, God's earth,
Right.
that we haven't, but so natural fruit is a good thing. The problem that we've discovered as humans is, through chemistry and innovation, we've developed a substance called high fructose corn syrup, for instance, which is in everything. And it's highly addictive to our bodies. And if you look at everything from salad dressing, just start looking at labels. It's in everything. And it causes an insulin spike and then an insulin dip, and it messes up your metabolism, and it creates, an environment where you're going to store calories. Your body kind of gets dysregulated. But there's no natural mechanism against overeating. Your body will gladly accept every calorie you give it, in the hopes that if suddenly those calories stop coming in, which is how we're set up to survive, it's going to store it for future use. And so that's how humans are made. So there's no natural defense against that. But there is a defense against, undereating, called hunger. Okay. So you get into these cycles of, trying to lose weight. And all of a sudden, your body's like, whoa, we're in a calorie deficit here. We got to turn some hormones on to increase your hunger. And that's what it does. So when you go on a diet, you're like, oh man, I'm losing 10, 15 pounds, but I am starving. Man, it's killing me. I can't keep this up. So, and come January, that New Year's resolution, this is the year I'm losing 20 pounds. And so by March, you're down 15, 20 pounds and you're dying. You can barely sustain yourself. You feel like you're going to die. And so then you start to slowly, that weight starts to come back. And by midsummer, you're like, I'll do it next year. That's the cycle people get in, is weight loss, regain, because that's how our bodies are set up. The gastric bypass is an operation that breaks that cycle. Because what I can do with that operation is, when you start to lose weight, remember when I change the hardware, the software changes. The software is the hormones. The hormones that make you hungry go down. The hormones that make you full go up. And the hormones that regulate your metabolism go up. And those are the exact things that you want to happen when you try to lose weight. Unfortunately, when you go on a diet, the opposite happens. The hormones that make you hungry go up. The hormones that make you full go down. And the hormones that control your metabolism go down, because they think you're starving. So they're going to slow everything down. They're going to make you hungry, so you want to eat to get those calories back to survive. So diets on their own are set up to fail through normal human physiology. And so when people start to think about, that is kind of what happens. I think I lose weight, and then my hunger pains are so bad, or I feel so low energy, I just don't feel like myself. So I'll grab some carbs, or I'll start to eat a little bit more, and it's generally not good food. But I feel better. And so the weight kind of stays, but then the weight starts to come back. And so then you're right back in that cycle.
Yeah.
So that question is legit, and everybody has it. But the answer is, that's just you. And people, it's hard to fight you, and it's hard to fight biology and physiology, but that's
Right.
what the gastric bypass does. And that's why I say it's the final solution. And if you think you can lose 100 pounds and keep fighting that battle, then do it. But I'm going to tell you, statistically, you're going to lose. Now, if you're with that 1 in 100, more power to you. But statistically, eventually, you're going to lose that battle. That's where I come in. I can give you the weapon. I can give you the sword you need to battle. I can give you the shovel you need to dig that hole. But without that tool, it's going to be really hard to win that battle.
I can see that. Well, Doctor, thank you so much. I think we've run out of time, but
that's only an hour.
yeah,
I could speak for hours on this, Alan. Hours.
I know you could.
Thank you for having me.
Well,
You're very kind.
you, and we'll do this again because this is an important.
I know it's not a normal thing people talk about. It's kind of that thing people don't want to talk about, but I like talking about it, and I like getting the information out there. So without, mediums like this or people like you that allow me the chance to talk about it, I never, I'm always looking for somebody to tell the story to. So thank you for doing this for me.
Well, you're a great spokesman. I appreciate it. Thank you again, and thank everybody.
Can I tell you how to get in touch with me?
Tell me how to get in touch with me. We'll put it on the screen during the thing.
Memphis Weight Loss Surgery, all one word. That's my website.
Okay.
You can also Google my name. I've got a lot of videos out there and interviews I've done over the years, kind of like this. But if you do Memphis Weight Loss Surgery or Google my name, Robert Wegner, doctor, surgeon, weight loss surgery, things will pop up. But I encourage people to look into it. A lot of people, I'll get questions. They're maybe a little timid or shy to ask, but then it kind of lets them go and kind of do their own research. And eventually they come around and want to talk about it. But I encourage everybody, if they're 100 pounds overweight and want to change their life, this is a fantastic option.
Well, very good. And if you've enjoyed watching this, please share it with someone who you think might benefit from it. Post it on social media, email it to someone. We really need to get the word out about this tool in your toolbox to get even healthier.
Yeah. The Mid-South is particularly hard hit with obesity, as you know. Just look around. This area is, which is why I'm here. It's a problem in this area. I want to help people in this area, but you got to make the first step to come see me if you want me to help you.
All right. Dr. Wegner is going to go help folks get healthier, and I'm going to go get some justice.